Alrighty then. Okay, classification. Make sure you read directions, and it says classify by degree in terms. So that's when it says classification, you know what I'm looking for. It's already in standard form because I'm such a nice person. So my degree here, my highest degree would be this 5. So my degree here is 5. Number of terms, if I count in between, I have x to the 5th, x cubed, x squared, and a number, so that 1, 2, 3, 4. So my terms are 4. And behavior, I look at my degree, and it's odd. Odd looks up, down, and then the second part you have to look at is that. And if that is negative, that means it flips it. So if this is what it looks like before the flip, after I flip it, it looks like this. So my end behavior would be up, down, turn around, boot, scoop, boogie. Next one, my classification, or my degree. First, my degree here would be 4. Number of terms, again, if I count 1, 2, 3, 4. My end behavior, my degree is even, so since it is even, it looks like this. Then I look, it's positive, so it does not flip. No flippity floppity. So it's going to be up, up to the sky. And the third one, classification, my degree would be 3, because the highest exponent. Terms would be also 3. And behavior, it is odd. So again, odd is down, up. Or I guess I could draw it like that. And then I look, no flip. So if it's no flip, then it's still down, up. Next, finding the zeros with their multiplicity. So, oh, I can't move this. Please pay attention to that green line. So first, it's already factored for you. So x cubed would be equal to 0. X minus 2 is equal to 0. X plus 5 is equal to 0. If I solve that, I get x is equal to 0, and that happened for multiplicity of 3 times. Why? Because it was cubed. That means that's x times x times x. Here I have x is equal to 2, because I would add the 2 over. So x is equal to 2, and that only happened 1 time. And finally, I have x is equal to negative 5, and that only happened 1 time. Next one I actually have to factor. So first I'm looking, they all have an x squared in common. So I can take out an x squared, leaving me with this. So I'm looking for the factors of 3 that also add to get negative 4. So both 3 and 1 and negative 3 and negative 1 multiply to get 3. But these two add to get negative 4. So I have my x squared out in front, and then I can break it up. X minus 3, x minus 1. So my zeros of the function would be x is equal to 0. And that one showed up twice. That would be x equals 3. And that one showed up once. That makes x equals 3. And then I have x is equal to 1. And that one showed up 1 time. And that is that one. Find all the solutions. So first you have to set it equal to 0. So x to the 4th minus 20x squared plus 64 is equal to 0. Now because this goes in the pattern 4 to none, I can still factor this. So numbers that multiply to get 64 and add to get negative 20. So those are factors of 64. I didn't write down 1 in 64. But they had to add to get negative 20. So multiply to get a positive 64, that means both of them should be negative. And the two that multiplied or add to get negative 20 would be those two right there. So I can split this up to x squared minus 4 and x squared minus 16. So I set those both equal to 0. So x squared minus 4 equal to 0, so then I would add the 4 over, add the 4, and then take the square root. The square root of 4 is 2, but you have to remember you have 2 different answers there. And that's the same thing for 16. Once I take that square root, I have 2 different answers there. So I actually have, the answer is plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4. Next one, first thing I notice is that they all have an x I can take out. So I can take out an x, leaving with 6x squared plus 5x minus 4 is equal to 0. I would tell you should not use a quadratic formula unless if I tell you to, which there is a question where I should tell you to. So I'm going to use my box to factor 6x squared negative 4. So multiply to get negative 24, add together to get 5. Those two numbers would be negative 3 and positive 8. Those should have x's with them. They should add to get positive 5x. What do these two have in common? They have a 2 and an x in common. What do these two have in common? Well, since this is negative, I have to take out a negative, and they're only divisible by 1. What do the other two have in common? They have a 3 and x, and the last, they have a 4. So again, these two should multiply to get that number. I would check always that number, check this number, check that. If you do not get those numbers in the box, you factored in correctly. So I have that x out in front, I have 3x plus 4, and I have 2x minus 1. You have to set each one of these equal to 0 to solve. So my first one would be x is equal to 0. This one would give me x is equal to 0. My second one would be a negative 4 over 3. When I set this equal to 0, I would subtract the 4 first and then divide by 3, so that's why it's a negative 4. And my last one would give me a positive 1/2. I would first add over the 1 and then divide by 2. Those are my answers for that one. Next, question number 8. Again, I notice that they have an x in common, so I'm going to take out that x, leaving me with 4x squared minus 11x plus 6 equals 0. Again, I'm going to use the box. So 4x squared, 6, so add or multiply to get 24, add to get negative 11x. And actually, they're the same numbers, negative x, or negative 8, and negative 3x. So these have just an x in common, so I can take over the x. These have a negative 2 in common. These have a 4 and an x in common, so I can take out the 4x. And finally, these have a negative 3. So my x out in front, 4x minus 3, and x minus 2. So my answers would be 0, positive 3/4, and positive 2. That would give me 0. Here I'd have to add to the 3 and then divide by 4. That's positive 3/4 and positive 2. Next one. Aren't we having fun yet? Oh, yeah. X to the 4th minus 14x squared plus 45. You have to add the 45 over. So again, this goes down by a pattern of 2. So two numbers that multiply to get 45, add together to get a negative 14 would give me a negative 9 and a negative 5. I said both of those equal to 0. So my first step is to add over the numbers. I have x squared is equal to 9. X squared would be equal to 5 because I'm adding over the 9, adding over the 5 for my first step. Take the square root. When you take that square root, you have a positive negative number. Square root of 9 is 3. Take the square root. Again, you have a positive negative number, except you cannot simplify the square root of 5, so your answer would be positive negative square root of 5. And last one on this page. Oh, look at that. They all have an x in common. I wonder if on the test any of the numbers will have all an x in common. I'm bewildered. So I take out that x so I can factor this. Two numbers that multiply get negative 12, add to get negative 1. We get negative 4 and positive 3. Set those equal to 0. X is equal to 0, 4, and negative 3. Again, 0, 4, negative 3. So I have to graph this. I'm going to first find my zeros. X equals negative 6. That happens once. X equals negative 1. Happens once. X equals 3. That happens twice. I'm going to put a star there because I'm going to make sure to do something with that on my graph. And behavior. Now, if I wanted to, I can say this happens once, and this happens twice. This gives me my degree. So if I add those up, my degree here is going to be 4. 4 is even. So if that's even, that means it's up, up. So I'm going to plot my points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 1. And 1, 2, 3, star it. I need to start up, so above my x-axis. So I start above my x-axis, go through the points, wherever I see a star, I turn around. So that would be it. Just a fine and dandy graph. Question number 7, I need to use my quadratic formula. It's telling me I need to use my quadratic formula. However, first thing I notice is have a 5 and an x in common. So I can take out a 5x, leaving me with x squared minus 4x plus 1. I took out a 5x, leaving me with a 1 there. 5x divided by 5x is 1. Now one thing I know, this right here is going to give me an answer of 0. X would be equal to 0 there. So I'm going to write over my answer ready for that one. For the other one, I'm going to be using my quadratic formula. Opposite b, plus or minus the square root in parentheses, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, which is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 12 over 2. I need to simplify this. That's the square root of 4 and the square root of 3, which is equal to the 4 plus or minus 2. This right here is equal to 2, so that's where the 2 comes from. I can't do anything with the square root of 3, so that stays right there. Then I gotta look at that beautiful heart. I don't care about the root. I'm looking at 4, 2, and 2. They all have a 2 in common, so I'm gonna put a comma here. My second answer would be 2 plus or minus. Those are my other 2 answers. 1 square root 3. You don't need to have the 1 there, but you sure can if you want to. And last, but certainly not least, with the zeros of that, what is the polynomial in standard form? So if I have a 0 at x equals 5, the equation would be x plus 5. If I have a 0 at x equals 0, that's just an x by itself. If I have a 0 at x equals 2, that would be equal to x equals negative 2, or x minus 2. Now I have to multiply it out. So I'm going to leave this x out in front. I'm going to do that at the end. And my first, so that's x squared, outside, minus 2x, inside, plus 5x, last, negative 10. So you have x squared, plus 3x minus 10. Then you still have to multiply by x. So if I multiply by x, it would be x cubed, plus 3x squared, minus 10x. Bing, bada, boom, I'm done. I aced it. I aced that test. And it's going to be amazing when Ms. Frickman grades my test because I'm amazing and it's all going to be amazing in Amazia. Oh, yeah. Have a great, grand, wonderful time of your life. Make good choices.